And a man who made history by driving overland from London to Singapore more than 60 years ago will do it all over again this August, but in the opposite direction.
Remarkable, isn't it? He is now 87 years young, and this time he's joined by a different team. 6 others, including a Singaporean.
87-year-old Tim Slessor wants to relive his driving expedition of 1955 when he drove from the Channel to Singapore. And he'll be doing it again with this trusted 64-year-old Land Rover, but this time back home to London. It's the same vehicle that Mr. Slessor and his friends used back then.
It's a bit of a pain to drive because there's no power steering, there's no synchronous gearbox. There's no disc brakes, leaks like a sieve, but you know, she's a great old girl.
Mr. Slessor feels this may be his only chance to make such a trip again.
When you get old, a little whisper in your mind says, go to it before it's too late, or you're only here once.
The team will be taking a new route to London due to security reasons, to avoid Syria and Iraq. This time round, they'll go through China. Members of this year's expedition include a filmmaker and a doctor. The team's communications manager is 51-year-old Singaporean Larry Leong, who will be driving his 19-year-old Land Rover. He said he was inspired by Mr. Slessor and jumped at the opportunity to travel with him.
He's basically my idol. Then when he said he wants to do it, I said, you do, I do lor. My role primarily is I have the experience, I did it before. So things like convoy driving, how to do, what to watch out for, like things we tell people, you know, how many hours of driving that you rest.
In 2015, Mr. Leong took 66 days to drive from Singapore to London with his daughter. This time round, Mr. Slessor and his team hope to complete their journey in 100 days, compared to the 6 months it took them the first time round.
And we're delighted to have with us right here in studio Tim Slessor with us, as well as Alex Bescaby, who'll also be taking part in the upcoming expedition. Gentlemen, it's
welcome.
A great pleasure to have you both.
Well, we're delighted to be here.
You know, Tim, Tim, I've got to come to you first and ask you what spurred you to get back into the same car and drive back the other way.
Well, the fact that the car sort of existed, I have to say sort of, because it was in bits. It was found in St Helena in South Atlantic, and it was brought back to England at vast expense by a nutty but marvellous Yorkshireman. And then, well, what do you do with it? Well, I suggest I'd always had this idea of driving from Singapore back to London, a different route to the route we'd chosen way back. And one thing fell into another, and I met Alex, and it looks like it might happen.
So Tim, you were determined that it was going to be in the same vehicle. Was that right?
Oh yes, I think yes. I mean, if somebody had said to me, that vehicle is totally destroyed, that vehicles don't exist anymore, but we're going to do it, would you like to come? I would have. I think I'd have gone. I think I would have come. I think I'd have come.
So Alex, what's your role in this then? How did you get involved?
So I heard about this story many years ago. We were at the same university, just a few years apart. It's a story it's a story that's inspired me. I grew up with Land Rovers in my family. They are a bit of a religion, and this story is part of that religion, really, the first overland. And all of my filmmaking work has involved some sort of history and some sort of adventure, and this is a historic adventure. So I think when I got the chance, and when Tim said, I fancy recreating this, I thought, yeah, I'm in.
Right, so you will be documenting this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Extensively?
Extensively, online. You can follow the journey online. We're on every possible social media at The Last Overland. So we'll be telling the story as we go. And
Tim, I suppose that's a very different experience to how you did it the first time round. Many things have changed, social media being a huge one. Are you ready to be sort of 24/7, have your life documented on this trip?
Well, I have to be. I mean, the fact of the matter is that when we did it, social media would not have meant anything to anybody. I mean, computers had hardly been, I don't think computers had been invented. So, I did a diary, for example, of the whole trip, and it's in longhand, over 400 pages of it. I think we had one typewriter. And even the typewriter today is almost a term that needs explaining.
Well, it's not just the medium of storytelling that's changed. The geography as well has, or the politics at play in some of these areas has changed as well.
Oh, yes, indeed.
What are some of the most memorable moments you had of your trip the first time round, coming out to Singapore and the countries that you passed through?
Well, because the countries through which we passed were practical then. I'm talking about, for example, it's through the Middle East, through Syria and Iraq and Iran and Baluchistan and all that. Not possible, well, hardly possible today. We went through Afghanistan, and I remember one occasion where we were looking for someone to camp late at night, so we pulled in under some trees, and within a few minutes about 5 people came down with bandoliers and guns and the whole. And it turned out we were on royal, Afghanistan still had a king at that time, we were on royal property, and someone in employ of the king had seen this crew of Brits arrive and had said, you know, we need to guard them. So these people were guarding us, rather than, you know, against dacoits, against the bandits of one kind. Oh, there were all kinds of experiences like that we would...
Hard to prepare yourself for something like that, I would imagine. I have a hard enough job getting my suitcase ready before I go on a holiday. So you guys are going to be traveling sort of 8 to 10 hours a day driving. What kind of things do you have to do to prepare for something like that?
Gosh, well, a lot of work's gone into it. I mean, it's going to be a huge challenge. I think the closer we get now, the more sort of intimidating it becomes. But it's a very old car. We've got to look after it and make sure it can get from one end of the world to the other. We've got a great team of mechanics, doctors, logisticians. We've got some great supporters, the Singapore Tourism Board, Land Rover.
Yeah, we've got 3 cars.
Yeah, we have got a convoy of cars looking after us.
Okay, so that's 3 cars in addition to the original?
No.
3
cars
in total.
including. Oh, wow, okay.
So it's not just me and Tim and the little old lady, unfortunately. But no, it's going to be tough, and that's kind of what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, and how many of you are in this team?
I think there's 7 altogether, including a doctor and Larry Leong.
Yes, we saw a Singaporean is on board and very
he's
eager
going to be invaluable.
Yes.
And it's a trip that he himself has made already.
Yes, he's done it at least twice.
Yes.
Although this trip, the journey that we're doing, actually, we're quite proud of if we pull it off, because we don't think that anybody's really done this particular journey before, particular route we're taking through China, which is going to be super exciting.
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of logistics involved and a lot of visas that need getting, a lot of permits and stuff. The administration of it is quite frightening.
Yeah, adventure's a lot of admin.
Yes, it certainly is. Tim, just a final thought before we wrap up. What are you hoping that this trip will do?
Well, I'm going on it because I'm 87, and I have a whisper that comes into my head every now and again which says, if you don't go now, you'll never go. So go before it's too late. You're only here once. You know, you got to do it while you can.
Strike while the iron's hot. It's good advice for all of us, isn't it?
Well, yes. And
we're all coming with you. That's the news.
You're more than
That's
welcome.
the surprise.
The older you get, the more relevant that advice becomes, let me tell you, because I'll be 88 somewhere en route.
Wow, we look forward. Oh,
well, I'm lucky.
Happy birthday in advance.
Yes, it'll be a wonderful way to celebrate as well. Thank you both so much for coming in, sharing with us the story and the adventure. Tim Slessor and Alex Beskaby, who will be part of the upcoming last overland expedition.